Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and do celebrity legal news. Also, join me for my pop culture chats. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. My Venmo and Cash App is below. Thank you so much, and let's get started.
All right. You all coming in, come on in, come on in. We are about to start this show. We're about to start this show. But listen, as you come in, your entrance fee is to hit that like button. If you are on Twitter, make sure you give me that heart. And also, if you're over there on Twitch, do whatever it is you do over there, okay? Just let me know that you're watching and you are having a good time. So today is the day that we're going to go over the Diddy trial, the autopsy of the U.S. Versus Sean Combs. We're going to go over that. We're just going to talk about the overall handling of the case, the verdict, the jury, the sentencing. What's your prediction for the sentencings? And then that'll be it for us. But joining me today, I have two guests. I have a couple more guests that are going to be on their way. But today we've got Dr. Hines. Dr. Hines, shout out your channel and tell everybody who you are.
Hey, I'm Dr. Hines. All I do is cover legal cases. I've been following the Diddy trial since it pretty much started, and yeah, like I'm happy that you have invited me here, Pam. It's been a while since we linked up, since we have linked up since majors. So yeah, it's good to see you again.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just I'm doing too much over here. All right. And we have Lauren Victoria Burke. Lauren, tell them who you are and shout out your channel.
I'm Lauren Burke. I have a channel called Crisis Comms, and soon I will have a nightly thing, late night with Lauren, which will be pretty interesting. I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered a fair amount. I cover Capitol Hill. I typically cover politics, but as a New Yorker, I do enjoy paying attention to celebrity cases, particularly the ones that end up in New York. And that really started for me with Jonathan Majors, which is how I met Pam Entertainment TV, which is great. And so that's who I am.
All right. All right. So what we'll do today, let me see if I can pull this stuff up because I keep telling y'all I need an editor that can come through here and do all of this stuff because your girl is not as savvy as she wants to be. That is not what I want to add to the stage. So just as we go off overall, I'll start with you, Hines. Overall handling of the case, prosecution, defense. Tell me how you're feeling about all of that.
Oh, I felt the defense was they did their job as a defense. They put on a better case, in my opinion, than the prosecution. But in fairness, though, I did think that the prosecution did start off with a bang. I felt like they did present a plausible case that Cassie may have been trafficked. But as the case went on, I felt that they just that the wheels just came off really because it just became a complete circus. Like some of the evidence that they presented, especially with for example with Jane Doe, like it just didn't look like this was a case of sex trafficking or even a RICO. It just looked like these were just uh, private lives being displayed in court as if it was a crime or something like that. That's what I made of it. I thought the defense done a really good job highlighting that none of this has any business connections, and it was all just personal. That's how I felt.
Okay. Well, we've got Marcus here from the back of the bus. Marcus, tell me who you are and shout out your channel for me.
For sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Pam, for having me on. Everybody else, appreciate y'all. Uh, Marcus from Back of the Bus podcast. You can follow me there on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us on all the socials there. Um, yeah, appreciate being on. Thanks for having me.
Great. Great. All right. Were you finished, Hines, or do I need? I'm gonna move to Victoria.
Um,
Lauren, Lauren, I'm gonna
yeah,
call you Lauren
you
and
can move on.
Victoria in between the
Okay.
two.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. It's fine.
No, you can move on. It's all right.
All right, hold on. I think I got one more coming to the stage. Here we have Mr. Blue
Mr.
from Blue's
Blue.
House. Blue, tell them
Blue.
who you are. Shout out your
Blue.
channel.
What up? What up? What up? How everybody doing, man? I am Blue Minotti from Blues House. Hope everybody doing good. How y'all doing?
Great.
All right.
All right. So, Lauren, go ahead and give us what you felt about overall about the handling of the trial.
Well, I had this completely predicted wrong. My assumption was that the strategy of the prosecution would work. I think the strategy of the prosecution was effectively throw somebody's messy sex life out into the public and hope that that will convict somebody on RICO charges of this type for the first time in history. I was wrong. It didn't work. I think when you have a black male defendant, there's a good reason to believe that, particularly for six white prosecutors, white female prosecutors, to believe that that strategy would work, given the history of this country and everything else. Uh, Fortunately, the jury actually went over a few things, actually looked at the evidence and figured out that there was something wrong here that didn't quite come to a RICO charge.
Okay.
And what that now resulted in was a massive loss, actually, for the prosecution. And one could argue, I think, very easily that this case should have never been brought into a courtroom. Obviously, given the footage that we saw with regard to Cassie Ventura being assaulted by Sean Combs, this was a domestic violence case, an aggravated assault case that was then elevated to something else because, well, why not, right? And for me, had he been convicted on the RICO and the other three very serious charges, because, traveling for prosecution isn't exactly a first time original charge in this case. Um,
That
had he
Manning.
been had he been convicted, every rock star from 1968 on would have been sitting there saying to themselves, "Well, I could be next," because that was quite a reach for that first charge, that RICO charge, and they lost huge. This is sort of a consistent thing now in this era of adjudication. We saw it with Young Thug, where we had prosecutors in Atlanta who felt like, oh my God, we got to go after Young Thug. And that was a massive waste of everybody's tax dollar as well. And at some point, somebody's got to get a hold of the fact that there's something wrong with it. Because what this came down to was your messy sex life, and let's see if we can make that into a criminal charge. What we found out 15 seconds into the trial through text messages and emails and other very hard evidence was that the so-called alleged victim was in fact a participant and a organizer of the activity that was alleged to be criminal. That's problematic. And if you're a prosecutor, you should know that that was going to be problematic. So I got this wrong. I thought he was going to be convicted on everything because I know the history of this country. I was a history major in college, and I figured, okay, this is going to work, particularly against a black defendant. It didn't.
Okay. Marcus, well, first, let's get we've got Attorney Nicholson in the building that's joining us today. Would you tell the people who you are and shout out your channel, please?
Yes, I'm attorney Mark Nicholson, known as the Battery Man for my focus on criminal battery cases. I practice law here in Indiana, criminal law, personal injury, and civil rights. That's my basically my practice. I was really interested in this case. Also going back to Jonathan Majors, that's how Pam and I kind of met through that case. And I think one of the things I said about this when I was on here previously was I did not think he was going to testify, and obviously he didn't. I was a little shocked that they didn't put on more witnesses, but apparently they didn't really need to. So I did think they were going to put on a little bit more. I think the defense's case was about 30 minutes long. So I was a little bit surprised about that. When they came back with that, the question about them kind of being, struggling on count one, I knew at that point he was obviously found guilty of something. Didn't exactly know what it was, but I knew, like, hey, if they had found him not guilty on the other ones, they wouldn't be struggling with count one. I knew that they were probably going to get it done before the holiday because July 4th they want to take that break. But I think when I was on here before, I'd said that this is really a domestic violence case, and that's they just turned it into a federal case. But all day long, it was domestic violence when you saw that video, and then the government tried to do their best to make it like, oh well, because he did this, he did all this other kind of stuff, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but they definitely didn't prove that. And with the history of RICO, which I came in a little bit late. You guys may have addressed where back in the day, the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. They went after him with it, went after Chuck Berry with it. R. Kelly, but he was messing around with little girls too. So, but this is something that they kind of use when the person is, and I said RICO, but I meant to say the Mann Act. Excuse me. Yeah, the Mann Act. This is something that they kind of tend to use when there's these rich, powerful black people, and somebody had pointed out, well, what about Hugh Hefner and Larry Flint? I mean, Hugh Hefner, he had a TV show basically, right, where he's putting on these women that are basically prostitutes, and they're coming across the country, and no one ever charged him with the Mann Act. But anyway, I'll stop talking.
All right. Marcus, let me know what you felt like overall about this case, handling of this case.
For sure. So I was
And then Blue,
definitely. What'd you say?
I would say I said in Blue, you'd go next after he finishes.
Gotcha. I was definitely surprised by the verdict, especially. I believe Attorney Nichols was talking about this when they came back and they were asking the questions. I thought at that point they had already given a judgment on certain charges. Maybe I was taking this wrong information from somewhere, but I saw somewhere where they had already came back with some guilty verdicts, or they were already considering guilty on some things. So that made sense to kind of what he was saying. But then for them to come back, as we're approaching the holiday weekend, as he said, and now trafficking is going as well, and it's just the 2 counts of the Mann Act. It kind of gave this feeling of, well, damn, what just happened? Because as I'm going through it and I'm listening to this stuff, I was one of the ones that was of the mind that once I heard that there were multiple times that he beat these women to make them do the acts, right? For me, and this is maybe just me putting too much of my personal lenses on it. Once you've introduced physical violence as a tool of getting your means or persuading someone to do something, I don't think it always necessarily needs to be pulled out, right? You do somebody's dirty that way one time. Do I really need to pull that tool out of my bag every single time? So it wasn't so hard for me to think that, yeah, okay, maybe there were some times where this situation was a little bit more comfortable for the individuals involved. Once you kind of cross that threshold, though, do you ever get to go back and be like, well, no, they wanted it? That's kind of where my mindset was. But I do think that, like Lauren said, the text messages and the coming back and the organizing of different events muddied the waters enough that people didn't discern between the two. I think the fact that they're holding him, they didn't let him out on bail, tells me that the judge, probably the entire apparatus there, is upset with the way that this went. I don't really get the fact that we're talking about organized crime, and now all of a sudden we're treating Diddy as if he's self-employed, as if he doesn't have any bosses. He has no business partners that we're pulling into this. It's they like y'all said, it's like they convinced us that this was an organization of criminal activity, but the only criminal activity that you leaned on was the sex stuff, and that was light. You couldn't prove it without or beyond a reasonable doubt, whatever the threshold is. I apologize. I'm probably one of the only ones on here that doesn't have a legal background, so if I flub the words a bit. But
my legal background is
I was like me and Blue.
The opposite side is my legal background.
I think it was just muddy enough. And honestly, even looking from the defensive side, they didn't argue the empirical. They weren't arguing the facts. They were like, yeah, but this is something else. They were like, yes, no, he did that. He's a terrible person. He's a bad person. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the main reasons he's still in jail, at least according to the judge, what he cited. But yeah, but this isn't organized crime. It's domestic violence. Yeah, this isn't racketeering. It's assault.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that's what, I don't know if they got down to the letter of the law of it and that's what kind of worked its way back. It certainly seemed like one side was arguing we're in the wrong courtroom, and the other one was trying to argue, well, yeah, he's a sex deviant though, and it was like there was nothing else. I've come up in an era where I've heard all of these stories about Diddy and potential misgivings and misdealings with people. Shine, Al B. Short, Kim Porter, like so many things that I thought would get even addressed in this case that they never even went to. I watched Albie Short go on a morning show, a news channel, in the lead up to this trial, and saying, "Hey, I spoke to the prosecution. I'm willing to testify to anything they want me to." Blase Skip. Like we never. I think Kid Cudi was probably the first. Shout out to a Ohio artist there, but he was the only one that got up there that was kind of outside of the umbrella, outside of Bad Boy and all of that, to come up and testify about some stuff. And then it doesn't really seem like it did any difference because they didn't take the arson charge seriously either. So I don't know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, not a legal expert. I can't really make heads or tails of it. I definitely thought he was going to get at least trafficking in the Mann Act. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss.
Blue.
Yeah, nah, y'all hear me? This was a gross overcharging. That's all. That the thing is, they came with this RICO. They came with the trafficking and prostitution, and though you got to think this was all theater. How they came at it was all theater. That's what got everybody involved. Oh, it's drugs in the baby oil. Oh, they released him beating on Cassie. Oh, you know what I'm saying? But the charges had nothing to do with the movie that we watched up leading to the trial. You know what I'm saying? So we're waiting. And I think you got to think the jury saw this too. The jury was not sequestered. They went home every day and read comments and listened to their family and friends. And they're like, yeah, I don't see Diddy. Yeah, he a POS. You know what I'm saying? He's a bad guy. But is it illegal to be a POS? It's not illegal to be a POS, right? Cassie was made whole twice over, actually 3 times over if you're really counting the money that she got. She got 30 million. She was made whole, and I think the jury saw that. She got 20 million from Diddy, 10 from the hotel. Like, what else do you want Diddy to do? This isn't a criminal. This is Bad Boy Records. This is whatever his liquor company, whatever, you know what I'm saying, Sean Combs Enterprises. This is not a criminal. They're not a gang or Crips, Bloods, the Gambino crime family. This is not that. And you came with a RICO. Where was the other people at? Right? You didn't. KK was not a Cody. What was the other bodyguard? D-Rock. D-Rock was not a Cody. How are you a solo RICO? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like
Michael Jackson. They didn't try. They didn't even try.
Yeah, they didn't. They did not bring. And the reason why they didn't try, because they thought that they had, if we throw everything at the wall, right, Diddy will cop a plea to something. See, everybody, when everybody hear about Fed conviction, it's pleas. It's not going to trial. It's pleas. Of course, I'm a plea out. It seemed like y'all got y'all stuff together. Guess what? They didn't have their stuff together. And Diddy said, expeditiously, let's take it to trial. And I got money. So let's go. Right? And that's what happened. He got money. Let's go. Y'all came with a lame, weak case. And the jury seen right through it, because them laying out Cassie and bringing in Jane Doe. Can we say her name now? We're allowed to say her name? No, we still gonna keep that on the low? Okay. Jane Doe and what was the other
Jane Doe, Mia,
Mia,
Cassie,
right? Mia. who's who's didn't line up with Cassie about the whole thing over the hanging over the
Oh,
That's Bana.
ba- Bana Bungalow.
bond? Like you started getting some testimony that didn't fit, right? The arson thing. Diddy had no you know, the fingerprints came back with female fingerprint. Like a lot of stuff just didn't fit to try to make this into a big hole. So I think, and I'm the opposite. When it came, when they came and they say, "Hey, we want to know about the, we got questions." When they had, I was like, "Oh, he walking." Because if you got a question on the Rico, because all you needed was two predicates, right? All you needed was two predicates to get him on the Rico. That means they didn't find the predicates. If they got to ask the Rico, which means he was walking. So the prostitution, I knew, yep. And I said that prior. I said they'll get him on the prostitution because that's easy to get. It sounded like they was doing some flying, you know, flying them in. They was, but that's regular. And I think this would have set a bad precedent going forward for married men and women going forward who just into some freaky stuff. If me and my wife go to Nevada, right, and we want to bring whoever into our thing, and then that'll turn into a whole, oh, that's the man act and all, like that's just crazy. And I think the jury seen straight through it.
I think, thank you all. My whole opinions of the thing was, I think that the like Blue said, that there was this trailer that they put out here, and they had us thinking. Because see, I was thinking not only was they going to put Cassie and all of those people, I was thinking about all the streams, because there's like what 5,852 lawsuits against Diddy. I thought that they were going to be pulling in people from that. They were going to be pulling people from the parties, because that's what everyone thought it was. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we found out, because everybody had their own thing, because you see how the Jaguar rights and all of those people kind of faded to black. We don't hear anything from them. But they made it seem like there is all of this nefarious stuff going on. People are going to parties. They've got baby oil on the table. They're putting the baby oil on the taking the baby oil. They're getting this MDMA high, and then it just turned into this big old orgy. But they're not vetting the people who they're coming in, and they're supposed to be minors coming in, and it's supposed to be this big old thing, because you go to the white party, then you go to the after party, and
Right, you get a
everybody,
tap on your shoulder. Hey, Diddy
yeah,
wants you.
they made it seem like it was this big thing, and people were being coerced. And then we find out, and I don't, and I don't want people to mishear me. We find out that all it was is that you and your girlfriends are fans, freaky ass ninjas, and y'all like to do all of these little different things. Now, again, Diddy is, like you say, a POS, because he's beating on these women. He's doing those types of things. And again, all this other stuff we're hearing was never applied to all this. So I thought, okay. So as they were giving information, now I will tell you this: when I heard Capricorn Clark's testimony, I don't know how I felt about the East River throwing me in the East River stuff. I don't know how I felt about that. I know that it was bad. But when she talked about them coming into her gated community, so you had to ask the guard that let you into her gated community to come into her apartment to take her to go see. I, I believe that. I don't know if I believe the arson. I don't I believe Mia was up 5 days, but she talked like she was on Adderall or something like that, and that was her taking that Adderall. I believe Mia on that. I think the prosecution's worst witness was Mia, not Mia, excuse me, was Jane, because I believe that Jane is still in love with Diddy. I
Still,
do. I do. I still believe
he
that she's
paying
in
he
love
paying
with
for
him.
everything right now.
I
Leave, you know
still
what I'm saying?
and I don't I believe her testimony. I think her testimony kind of swayed the jury and stuff like that. I think her testimony, because again, when she said, "Oh, I attended a King's night with another popular rapper and his wife." What?
Mm-hmm.
It just
Now, I don't want people to get, because like I said, if someone tells you they don't want to do something, they don't want to do that's the whole thing. But you telling me, and as the alternate juror, I'm like, now wait a minute, because you had me on the heartstring, but you're attending other places.
Right.
Doing the
I
Yeah.
same
don't,
stuff.
I don't,
Mm.
and also
That's
too,
where.
and attorney Nicholson, you let me know because when I read those sentencing guidelines, the way that they had that thing about the RICO, uh, this is what was interesting to me, and I may have read it or didn't read it, and I can definitely pull it up and show you what I'm looking at. But there is a thing that said that the RICO is for 5 years. And so it started like they started out like with Jane, and then they went back. So it in my head, I'm thinking if they don't believe Jane was trafficked and transported,
Mhm.
then they can't touch anything on the RICO because they don't believe it was continuing.
It's got to be consistent. Yeah, it's got to be it's got to be a pattern, and it can't stop for a certain amount of time. It's got to keep going.
It's got to keep going. And I think once they decided that they didn't believe that Jane was trafficked, they just really couldn't go back and look at the other stuff because it stopped with Cassie in what was it,
Fifth.
2018, 2018 or something like that. And when
Mm.
I saw that, when they came back and said that they had questions, I was like, oh, they probably decided that that they didn't believe one of them. They either didn't believe that she, because I felt it was a shoe in about the transportation. I believe that they don't believe that Jane has been trafficked, so therefore they don't believe they can't put anything on those predicate charges because there was a stop.
Hmm.
But you let me know if I'm.
No, you're right in what you were saying in regards to the like this continuous behavior. That basically means like a statute of limitations, 5 years. What they have tried to bring it in between that time frame. I think this is me kind of being a little maybe cynical, and but I think the prosecution, they accomplished their goal, which was really to tear him down and basically destroy his image and things like that. So obviously, they would want a conviction on everything that they did. I mean, they constantly overcharge. That's common, and I felt it was a win for the defense, and obviously they end up thinking it was a win as well. But his image is destroyed, and he's lost, probably millions of dollars, obviously paying his attorneys. He may never get some of those contracts back that he had before. People that used to associate with him now probably won't associate with him because, that can tarnish their brand and their image. So I think in one way the prosecution kind of accomplished their goal, which was one to kind of destroy him. And now he got convicted, of a felony, and he, because the judge wouldn't let him out. I mean, I thought that was a little, in my opinion, I think it's a little petty, because this guy is one of the most recognized people on the face of the earth, and he was on his knees praying and thanking God or somebody that he didn't get convicted of a big charge. So the idea that now he's going to run, I could see if he got convicted of the main serious charges he had, and I ain't got nothing to lose, so I'm going to
Yeah.
run. But now, you know,
Yeah, I didn't like the way the judge did that neither.
yeah,
Taking, the judge came back and said, well, y'all said that he was violent. And I'm like, yeah, but I was not convinced, because to me, Bell is not supposed to be punitive, right? It's not
right,
supposed to be punitive. Now you're punishing me after I was found not guilty of violent crimes. I'm not guilty of any violent crime. I should be able to get bail. I should be able to get that. You know what I'm saying? Or let's do the sentencing, because if you're not gonna give, let's do the sentencing now. Or let's hurry up and get this over with, because I got stuff I need to do. You know what I'm saying? Under the Mann Act, what they said most times is what, a 2.5 years or
I
something
think
like
the
that, up to 3
maximum
years.
is 10, but he's a first
Yeah, but
timer, right? So
right.
he's lowered a lower
So it's
degree.
like, come on,
yeah.
man, let's get this over. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can give me bail, bro. Like, I thought that was kind of, especially after he had just said, he told the jury that everything said in opening and in closing is not to be used as uh uh what I'm saying,
Evidence.
against as evidence. You know what I'm saying? Now
Yeah.
he comes back and uses it against us. Oh man, come
Right.
on, bro.
Do you
Right.
think the letters that had an impact on him? The letters from Cassie and Deontay Nash?
I think that call, if the jurors weren't sequestered and they heard that phone call where she was threatening that man, talking about "I'ma kill you" and "I'ma do this to you," the one that was
Oh, the
showed in the
Cassie
video,
call.
the Cassie call.
Did they
Mm,
play that in court?
No,
yeah.
but it was on the internet. So
No,
if
they
they
played that
didn't
in court.
question the internet,
It was played
question
in
the
court.
jury. Oh,
That
they
call
played
was
that in
played in
court.
court. Yeah.
Oh, well,
That was
shit.
played in court.
I mean, that again, they muddied the waters, right? It's not as clear cut as, okay, he took my phone, he locked me in a room and make me do whatever and pulled me out for his pleasures. She got to come and go, right? Like she was running the show at different periods of the time. She was booking the prostitutes. I just don't think that they did enough to cross the thresholds. Kind of like what y'all said. They thought that they could throw all of this on to the wall and then the embarrassment would be enough for
I
him to
got a question,
cave.
Mark.
Go
Do
ahead.
you think that they were so enamored with the whole, believe all victims, and if we make Cassie to be this biggest victim, we got him? Because I was watching Joe Budden podcast, but they brought up a good point about, do we look at people like gang members or anything like that when they die or get hurt or something like that? Do we look at them as victims? You know what I'm saying? Because they could have left that life anytime. It's the same. To me, it's the same trauma. When they made that correlation, I said it is kind of the same trauma. The circumstances that you were brought into led you to do this, right? Cassie was brought in. She could have, when a lot of people say, "Hey, Cassie could have left," whenever she wanted, like, oh, Stockholm syndrome. Same thing goes for like a gang member or something. Is it Stockholm syndrome where they beat up and now they got to work for the ball? You know what I'm saying? Even with like these crime families and stuff like that. We don't look at Sammy the Bull as a victim, right? We don't look at him as a victim,
Mm-hmm.
but he was complicit in some of the in you know what I'm saying, in the things that he did. With Cassie being complicit, do you think that maybe the jurors were looking at it like, nah, she was complicit in like 90% of this stuff. He might have he might have put his hands on her, but she was willing, ready, and I'm saying, even with
Yeah.
Jane, and I think Jane kind of drove that sentiment home of the ready, willing, and this is what I signed up for to do. You know what I'm saying?
So I think that I think her credibility, her and Jane's credibility was kind of the crux of the trafficking charge crumbling. I think for you to be talking organized crime and you to lead with the sex stuff, right? It's
Mm,
obviously the most salacious, but it just clearly wasn't the thing you had the strongest case on. And so, like, why? I guess the best description of the case I've heard is overcharged and under prosecuted, right? You
mm,
got these big grandiose charges, and the amount of evidence that you brought was very superficial. You know, it
right.
was enough in there for them to blow that house of cards down. So I do think that, yeah, it was a shot to their credibility to a certain degree. But I want to be careful about characterizing the entire, relationship as that in terms of how you now view people who bring these claims, because there is real stigma around stepping out and telling people about you being harmed in this way. So in this case, I can absolutely see it. It's I mean, the jury saw it. I don't know if I want to start treating every single case that way, where we necessarily asking the people who are claiming violence against them, now they have to clear the burden of proof necessarily. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that,
Well,
but
if we're uncomfortable with that, then the prosecution should stop bringing these types of cases.
There you go. Because
Whether
that's what
they
I was gonna
know it or
say.
not,
yeah,
they're cheapening this issue
yeah,
by bringing a case like this, where you have things in the charges such as sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. That was the first thing that went out the window the minute the first set of text messages came into the trial.
Yeah.
What was coercion? These people were willing participants. They organized. I can't wait to do it again. That's part of the evidence. Now, how does the prosecution not know that that was going to be part of the evidence? They either knew and didn't care, or they knew and figured, well, if we just throw the stuff out there, we might get lucky. But what they're actually doing is they're cheapening the people out there who are real victims of sexual
There
violence.
you go.
You
Yep.
got to be kidding me. There's no way that that isn't the case in this case. You brought this, which is effectively what we've been hearing about rock and roll, the music industry, the entertainment industry, sometimes the sports industry for decades. They brought it into a courtroom as criminal activity.
So
Okay,
let
you want to bring it into the courtroom as criminal activity, you got to come with something a little bit better than this.
stronger.
You've got the so-called victims saying in their own writing and in their own words, yeah, I can't wait to do it again, and I'm participating. That's a
Yeah, and
mistake.
that's why,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mistake.
that's why I didn't understand why there weren't any other people brought into this thing, because like I said, it has been rumored, and like I said, I don't know if they had evidence for it or not, but I think the girlfriend aspect of it, and these types of things, again, it's about what a reasonable person would think. Once you enter that there was text messages, and like you said, a call, I'm gonna beat your behind if you don't give me back this tape, and all this other stuff. All of these things the jury is not going to unremember because you pulled out a text that says, I like it when we planted it and it's for us, that's for us. They're not going to go through that, because that's just, I mean, that's sounding like, okay, there is some agreement to all of this. But let me honor this super chat that we got. Thank you so much, Puma Lee. He says, remember what he did to Heavy D's dancer, Crush. Now, I don't remember. I remember Heavy D's dancer fell off a speaker or something many, many years ago. Was that Trouble T, Roy? He fell off a speaker. That this
Was
might be.
that Trouble T Roy? That
Was
was a
it?
long time ago. That
That's
was
what I'm saying. That's the only thing I
90.
remember about is, yeah.
That
I
might have
didn't
been
I didn't
89, 90. Was that? Wow.
Yeah, I didn't think Puff had anything to do with that. I just understood he was up there dancing and slipped and
Mm.
fell down into the pit. I guess is what they call it.
What do you guys think the verdict? What impact do you think the verdict will have on the civil cases he still has out there now? I think he had two other cases before this even got done.
Honestly, I think now they're going to have to go, because a lot of those cases say we're trying to define the freak offs as you giving me these drugs in my wine and my
Hmm.
champagne and my water and
Yep.
all of this other stuff, and then all of this stuff happened. So I don't know how it's going to affect the story, because now they've got to show, and I had asked this question before, Marcus, with all the time that it took for them to do these particular freak offs, what time did he have to do all this stuff for those 99, these 99 different lawsuits? I'm not saying that they couldn't, but I'm
Right.
being very serious. The way Cassie them and Jane reported, and also the personal assistants, they would be in there 12 to 48, 72 hours, and then it took them a week or 2 weeks to recover. So I'm trying to figure out at what point in time, if those things, when all of these lawsuits happen,
Right.
and how much time. And I'm being very serious. How much time does somebody, because I'm sorry, Diddy is, I don't Diddy is a lot of things. He's not superhuman. That takes a lot of planning and all this other stuff. And again, where are those people? Is there going to
What
be
else?
another
Yeah.
case that they're sitting down with all those other people?
Can they
So
even try this again? If it's a
Not
new
him.
set of
They
people,
can.
can
They
they
can.
try this
So
again?
they can try like KK and D
D
Rock.
Rock.
They can try those, but Diddy is done. They cannot. You know, unless he come out after probation and slap somebody up. That's it on this. So and that goes to another thing too. Pam, you said he's not superhuman. I think a lot of those civil cases came because of, like you said, the trailer or the movie that we were watching. Like, yeah, I was around Diddy, and that
Lil
one night
Rod
I
was
didn't
before Cancer
feel
Cassie. The
no, yeah,
Lil
but
Rod
little
was
little
before
Rod,
Cassie.
little Rod also to me sounds more like I want my money, and you know what I mean. Like a lot of that was I didn't get paid for his last project and stuff like that. Like
But
as
that's
I'm
the
reading,
problem of his attorney, because the thing about that, because the same attorney that was for Little Rod is the same attorney that was for Bonna. and was
Mhm.
the same attorney for
So
somebody
they
else
all
that's
could have
doing
got
it.
together
Was it
and
the Blackburn dude? The
What an
dude who
amazing
got
Yeah,
locked up?
coincidence. What an
and
amazing coincidence. The same
yeah,
attorney, like
and
Tony
his
Busby,
problem.
right?
like Tony
Mhm.
Tony
Busby.
No,
Busby
no,
is the
no. We're
same
talking about
attorney for all these people.
We're
Look,
talking about
here
Tyrone Blackburn for
Yep.
Little Rod and Vanna,
Blackburn.
and he's for somebody else. He's for somebody, but
Ain't he in
he
lockup
had
right
a
now?
yeah, because he tried to run over a process server, from what I understand.
Yeah,
But
that's right. Yeah.
that problem is because even if they had a plausible case, your attorney is BS because he's embellishing. Because see, that's how Vanna got caught up because he said that Diddy lifted her up by her breast, and that she said that that's not what happened. And then you,
obviously there's something going on in civil litigation with regard to wealthy black entertainers
Yeah.
and attorneys who are targeting wealthy black entertainers. It's not always black folks. There's been a few white folks as well that have gotten hit up. But Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, Chris Brown, Trey Songz, it's the same case. And really the
Jamie
same
Foxx,
attorney.
Aaron Hall.
Jamie Foxx, right. So are we to think that only black entertainers are doing this type of behavior? And wow, what a coincidence. The same 3 or 4 attorneys just happened to
To
find the
be
client.
right. Hmm.
I mean, it is, I feel like at this point, some of this stuff, maybe not all of it, who knows? But when I see something like Smokey Robinson, who we haven't heard anything negative
Anything ever.
about in 60 years before I was even born, then I start to say to myself, this is a racket. This is extortion by another
Mm,
name. And of course, you can do it. You can file the civil case. You're shielded from defamation from anything you write in that civil case
yeah.
document. They know that. So they can write any wild thing that they want
Anything.
to write, right? And
Hmm.
now we're to the point that Jay-Z, thankfully, these people have some money on hand, right? So now
That's the thing.
Jay-Z said to himself, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to sue everybody's ass. But there's
Yeah.
no way that you're going to tell me that Tony Busby just happens to be the attorney on all these cases. Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
and of course,
Yeah.
some of these people did what you think they're going to do. They settle. Deshaun
Hmm.
Watson settles for what was it, 200K for like 14 people.
Yeah.
I mean, so the attorney's getting at least a third, maybe even a half. I don't know. I don't know what Tony Busby's contract says, but he's probably getting at least a third.
I
I
think the
mean,
NFL was involved too with the Deshaun Watson thing. So I think
He
they
was
hit
encouraged to
right
settle.
to settle by the
He was
NFL so they
encouraged.
can,
sure, he
yeah.
had a big contract coming up. Of
Hmm.
course, they leveraged that. What a
Right.
surprise, right? I mean, but it to me, there's something going on here that's a little bit more than just uh, fair civil attorneying. I mean, there's something going on. All these wealthy people just happen to be, and I thought that the Smokey Robinson thing, come on, y'all. Really?
Gang
Smokey
banging.
Robinson. I mean, that for me was the ultimate. But we'll see. We'll see when the evidence comes out. That's why when you say that, wow, I'm surprised that all these people that were running their mouth on X and Instagram didn't show up in court. Yeah, because that's when it gets real. Because you
Yeah.
got to put your hand on the
You got it.
Bible,
Yep.
lie. Now, you can play.
Perjury is real on that stand.
Do
Yeah.
y'all think
Ask
that's what
Lil
hurt
Kim.
the kind of like outward stressing witnesses? Like we again, we didn't really talk to many people outside of the sex and freak off stuff. Do you
Mhm.
think that's what kind of discouraged it? They was just blowing smoke this whole
It's
time,
the
or
TV show.
Hell
Like
yeah.
we watched the trailer and didn't get none of the trailer. We didn't get none of it. And like I said, these juries or these jurors, they saw all leading up to this. Nobody escaped. This case was all over the place. Could none of them escape it? Now, I just think those jurors went in thinking one thing because they probably some of them went in saying, man, Diddy is innocent or Diddy is guilty. That's just human nature. But they all went in knowing that this Cassie video done dropped. I'm looking for the little kids. I'm looking for him taking 800 white women from, you know what I'm saying, whatever place and transporting them and doing like they looking for all of that and didn't get none of it.
they didn't call his friends, they didn't call his business associates.
Right.
Clive Davis didn't hit the stand. I'm
Why?
like, he's an organized criminal, and we're not gonna call his boss in here and be like,
Right,
hey,
with no organization.
how did he get down, or how did all this go down? Like
Right.
it just that was very surprising to me.
Well, you also you got to realize too that some things are happening behind the scenes that we may not know about, where they could have tried to contact them, but they have so much power. It's like,
They
no,
kept themselves out of
we
it.
ain't got nothing to say.
Mhm.
And then they don't get called because the prosecution uh, can't call them because they're saying, hey, they're taking the fifth, which would be the easy thing. Say, hey, I'm taking the fifth, and then they're not going to charge them with anything. So now they don't have to testify because all of them got lawyers. They know what to say. Tell them they're taking the Fifth Amendment. Oh, I ain't talking to you, Fifth Amendment. And then now they can't even call them. They can't even mention during a trial that they tried to call them. So
Damn.
that keeps them, that limits the entire prosecution's case. But once again, I still think part of that was let's go after him to destroy him. And the same thing with the civil suits. Anytime, like Walmart, McDonald's, you get real big, people gonna always come after you. You know what I'm saying? I had one big case, and then all of a sudden, people come after me, some positive, some negative, and then now you have what was her name? Was it Gloria Allred or something like that? That was when before the Me Too movement got big. She was taking all the cases for women.
Oh, I know you talk about that's what was her name?
That's Lisa Bloom's mom.
Lisa Bloom.
Gloria
Yeah,
Allred.
Lisa Bloom.
Okay. Yeah, and she was always going after all the men on those when there was any kind of sex case. Now these other attorneys, they get their name known out there, and they, fishing and stuff like that. Now they get all these people. But does Diddy want to go ahead and go through this process again, or does he want to just go ahead and settle? You know what I'm saying? Like try to make those go away, because the standard of proof in those cases is a lot less.
Yeah.
And people that are mad at this verdict may try to hold him accountable in that one, like they did OJ.
Yeah, that's dangerous. That's tough.
Yeah,
because people are watching this publicly and they have
Right.
opinions on it, and you can't expect them not to walk into the jury pool with those opinions. It's just being a human being.
I just wanted to put up here this little graphic of highlighting who the jury was. I think it was 8 men and 4 women, and they have all of their respective jobs descriptions on here. And I put it up here because I've listened to a lot of different other lives in regards to that, and particularly those that are were pro that prosecution. And one of the things that kept coming up was, this is a stupid jury. They're stupid because they how could they not have seen? And I'm looking at their at least the education. Most of them seem to be college educated folk.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about college educated folks, regardless, even if you got a degree in weed basking, they usually try to use some critical thinking about certain things.
Right.
But I just wanted to put that up there so everybody can see the makeup of the jury, because a lot of people. I heard one young lady say, "Well, they people should go to a class before they should be a juror and all of this other stuff."
Damn, a class.
And I'm like, a class?
What's the point in the courtroom then?
Right.
Yeah, because
if you're gonna go to
people
class?
don't when people are not satiated about if their point is not being put across, then all of a sudden everybody's dumb, everybody's stupid, and they need a class. But sometimes we don't think about, okay, you're supposed to have a civics class back in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You have your civics class, and so that's where you're getting some of this information from. But I want to ask you all this question.
Can I interrupt you real quick, Pam? I'm sorry. With you bringing that up, somebody saying that the jury is stupid. Why? I never understand why people don't attack either the prosecution or the defense when it comes to
that's my
verdict.
point.
I don't know why people don't attack the prosecution.
Yeah. Hold on, they attack the defense all day long as a defense attorney. If I represent somebody if I represent somebody that's accused of murder or molesting kids, they think that I'm sanctioning that. I'm
Right.
How could you represent somebody, that's all that kind of stuff like that? And so it's easy to attack the defense, but the state prosecution, I mean, it seems like they're rarely critical. Even when people come in there at the jury, they will, and I'll back up a little bit, Pam, they actually do get a class before they serve on a jury. They do get a class, and they watch this like video that tells them about the role of a jury and things like that. And I know it's in Indiana, but I believe it's throughout the country, because I know they have in the feds too.
What type of is it? How long is it? Like the video and all that? Is it like just to catch you up? Hey, this is what the jury does. Yada yada yada.
It's not. It depends on how what they put together. I know in in our state, in every county is different, right? But in Marion County, it may be about 30-minute video, something like that. And then they also have the questionnaires that they fill out, but they do have a little process, that they have to go through. But even through that, when they get there and the judge advises them what the role is as a jury, 99, and this may be a little bit of exaggeration, but the majority of the time anyway, it seems like on criminal cases, the defense is always, on the defense, because people come in there with, well, the reason why you're here is because you must have done something wrong. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. It's very, very difficult to get a jury where people are very skeptical of the case. It's almost, and if you have a death penalty case, they have to be death penalty qualified, and that means everybody has to raise their hand and say that they are for the death penalty, basically. Otherwise, they can't serve on the jury. So it's very prosecution oriented on the jury, in my experience.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. I think everybody needs a class before opening a YouTube
Turn that to
channel.
Tissa Tales.
Yeah, right. Tissa Tales. My G's.
What did it say? I didn't see it.
He didn't say her name, but y'all don't say her name over here, child.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Say her name over here, child.
Sorry, my bad.
Double T. Can we call it Double T?
Yes, because there's a whole lot of stuff. I was planning on doing a video, but then I said, no, I'm just gonna listen to everybody else talk about it. But as we go on, and let me share my screen again. I told y'all I am. So they had applied for bail. The defense applied for bail, and it was denied. And they have the sentencing on the 3rd of October. And I just put on there. Let's see.
Oh, no, okay. No, wait, 2024 or 2025? What am I
2025. Y'all know, okay. I'm living in. If something
he gonna be in there until October,
possibly. Yeah. Possibly. They asked for expedited.
They asked for expedited. They asked for an expedited hearing, but the judge tentatively set it for October 3rd. And if they could come up with a lesser date, because they want to get the what do you call that? The sentencing.
They talked to probation.
Yeah, they got to talk to all those folks.
Pre-sentence investigation. They have to do that.
And
but also it could be there's a flip side to this too. On the sentencing, if I can give my prediction,
he went in October. So I'm looking at it like they're giving time served, because if he went in, he went in. I'm sorry, he went in September of last year. He comes out in October. If they do it in October, that'll be a year and a month. Boom, good to go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because if he lets him out, right, then he put him back in, so it's easier to deny him bail, keep him in for that period, and then say, okay, ladies, gentlemen, it's time served on this. He's a first-time offender. He blah blah blah. That's looking at it in a good way, but
So what are y'all sentencing? Because I'm looking at it because the judge didn't let him out. Because I know that they were talking when I read the inner city press as little stuff. They said that the judge was told the defense that. You all said that he was violent. You what's the wording that they use? What's the wording? It's
during his
conceded,
closing?
I guess the
conceded. They conceded that he was violent.
The fact that he was violent. So why would I let him out because he's violent? And then that's what I was asking on the question. Do you think the letters from Cassie and Deontay Nash? Do you think that those letters influenced the judge not to let him out? And if so, or if not, explain that. And what do you think what is his sentencing? Now, I think just from looking at all of this, I just seem like the judge may give him like 4 to 5 years. What do you all think?
I think with him being a first-time offender, I don't think he gets 4 or 5 years. The sentencing guidelines. Because even the defense brought in under the Mann Act, nobody has been sentenced, crazy absorbent amount of time, yada, yada, yada. They brought in all the case law and stuff like that under that. Also, it goes back to what we were just saying. It would make sense to let me withhold bail for right now. Come October, I'll let you out. It's a good year I can say time served. You know, I look good as a judge. I do what I'm supposed to do as a judge. You get out, time served. You go do whatever uh, rehabilitative things that you need to do so you can get back out into society. Because you know the judge still got to answer to certain people too. You know what I'm saying? And if he just let Diddy out now, and then because think about it, if I let him out now just to put him back for 2-3 months, why am I even giving him bail? You know what I'm saying? Like that don't make sense.
Do you think that because the prosecution uh, lost, so, and I'm only meaning lost, that they didn't get the charge that they really wanted was the RICO charge, do you think that the judge would sentence him to 10 years?
Not 10, because I think that's the maximum. But I'm of your thinking.
But you remember he got two charges.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So it could be 5 from each. So I'm of your thinking because I think Blue, all due respect, I think his outlook is a little bit more optimistic than mine. But then again, I was pessimistic going into the verdict, so I've been already been wrong on this one. But I think the fact that the judge is keeping him in jail, at least it feels like to me, even with him using the defense's pretty much their argument all trial against him. Yeah, he's an abuser. He's a domestic violence abuser, but that's not what we're charging here. It's almost like he tried to hit him with a whammy, right? Like him trying to use their words to keep him in jail. It's almost like all right, well, y'all thought y'all got away. You know what I'm saying? So I could see him keeping him in jail now. Giving him the max feels aggressive. And then I think whatever he gets, he'll probably try to. Can he get parole? Like, can he get out early on good time, or is that
Feds normally feds, I think you got to do at least 85% of the time.
of the time? Okay.
Yeah. Feds don't
So
let you
even if
out.
he
You
gets
do
5 years, he may end up doing like around 2.5.
No. Like I said, feds, if you get
Or
into
3.
5, you doing the 5.
Are you
Or
doing?
you might, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah, fed time, you do the
At
fed.
3.5, because he's already, because, well, I guess I'm
But
looking at
he's right,
time
you'll get the
served.
Because of time
time.
served, right?
Yeah. So you might be right. So yeah, 3, you know what I'm saying? Something like
I
that, 3 and some
think
change.
I think the judge might. I mean, in during sentencing, I think the judge might look at the circumstance where the tape was leaked to the media. I'm not sure if you can use that. I'm not sure if what I'm gonna say is gonna make a lot of sense. But I wouldn't be surprised if he looks at the fact that the media had hold of the video and he still went on to do free calls with Mia, sorry, not Mia, Jane, and then goes on to beat her, etc., and do all those things when all this information was out of him. He might look at that as someone that doesn't have any regard to the law. So he might look at that and be like, yeah, let's put him away for an extra 4 or 5 years. That's
Well,
why
he didn't
he
beat on
probably doesn't.
Jane though.
Yes, he did.
He did. He did.
No, Jane took his head and slammed it on the desk, and then Diddy said, "All right, you want to play? Then let's play." Like, which one? What are we gonna do if you slam my head on the desk? You know what I mean? Like, and I might be a little coked up or whatever drug I'm on. Like, yeah, you might get some. I just don't like how. Oh, he beat on Jane. It's like, no, Jane took his head after hearing the Cassie verdict. Said, "Oh, that sounds like yada yada yada." Took his head and slammed it on the desk. What you expect Diddy to do? Just you right, girl. Take that. You know, like what? What I mean. But go ahead. I'm go ahead.
No, that
Hans.
was that was the bulk of my point. I
Y'all
mean,
make
like,
sure you all hit the
yeah.
like buttons on all the respective channels that are streaming. I, I think I feel like there is an example that they want to make out of Diddy. I feel like he's got two charges, both have a maximum of 10 years. That's 20. Y'all think I'm overreacting when I say he might get seven years?
Whew.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
That would be one of the highest, you know,
Yeah.
that would be one of the highest sentencing for these crimes. I mean, which of course would be completely unsurprising because we know all the criminal justice statistics
Yeah.
indicate that black males get higher sentences for the same crime. So none of that would be surprising that all of a sudden The judge wants to be an activist and wants to impress Alvin Bragg or whoever the heck is sitting around mad that
I
they
think
brought
that'd be
a
crazy.
ridiculous case. But I could see it happening. Because they lost. The prosecution
Right.
Yeah, and
they
they
But I
mad about it. Yeah,
thousands of
And you know
dollars.
that hurts them because they were talking about even when this case started. Because I mean, I was in it too. I was like, the Southern District Attorney has like a 98 point something something
Right.
conviction
Mhm.
rate,
I was
and I was
But I
coping.
like,
told you
oh well,
why
I
he's
was
though.
on.
coping all case.
Did anybody see a press conference?
I really thought prosecution were
A
gonna
press
land it. I was
conference?
Did
coping.
everybody see anybody see a press conference from the prosecution after this? Of
No.
course you didn't. Now, would you have seen a press conference had they won
had
on
they
all?
won?
Oh
Of
yeah, they would have been parading his head around the square. Yeah.
We have
Oh
won a great
man,
day for victims here in New York.
they
Sean
would have done a
Combs
You are
office.
TikTok
heard.
dance
But
You
before.
are heard.
but let's be clear. I don't think they care about any victim because
No.
if they really did,
Then they would have
they would
presented
have.
the case as.
Yeah, and domestic violence, like they, this. I mean, there's evidence right there of this kind of domestic violence. Now I don't know the exact timeline. It may have been outside the statute of limitations because I think
For
that case
Cassie it
was from like
was. Yeah, for
10 years
Cassie it
ago or
was. But
something
if you're
like that.
talking Jane and the other ones, they could have came with
Yeah,
domestic violence.
and so, but that really wasn't
Real
their.
quick.
But
I'm
that's
sorry,
not
real
normal.
quick before I
Feds
get.
feds don't
Hold on,
normally do that. That would be a state or a local thing that normally does
right.
that. And that's
hold
the
on,
Yeah,
that's
real
the thing.
hold on, real quick. How do you think that if Gina hadn't skipped town? Because you remember Gina's case was supposed to be between Cassie and Jane.
Hmm.
And she would have been like that little link right between them because she was like halfway through well, pretty much the same time that Cassie got there, and then she was still there when Jane got there. Do you think that that
Yeah.
would have made a big difference in this case with her
If
being
she would
there?
have testified to such, but to me, I think Gina was a down ass chick. Like I don't think because it's not. She didn't skip town. She was on Instagram posting and doing all types of stuff. She was outside. You know
Let
what
me
I'm
do it
saying?
again. Skip.
I know. I'm just saying I don't think she was one of the ones who bought into um whatever the prosecution was given to the other people who testified. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm hearing immunity deals was given out, and I think Gina just didn't want to be involved in none of it. Like she didn't have to be. If you're not finna prosecute me, and I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm not going to jail for anything. I don't have to get up there. Diddy might have treated her well. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna go up there and say anything bad about Sean. I'm cool. Whatever he did to her is what he did to her. I'm out and you know what I'm saying. So whatever beach I'm at in a bikini sipping my tie. Y'all got that.
and plus we don't know behind the scenes how many people, thinking, well, man, this dude gonna get out, or he still got people out here that can touch me
Yeah.
or paying me, treating me
That too.
well
Could
either
be that.
way. So it's kind of like now I'm glad I stayed in his good grace. See, I didn't testify against you,
Right.
so break me off something. So I know just by being involved in the system, both on the back end and the front end. There's a lot of stuff that happens that sometimes as we in the public, we don't even get to really kind of see. But
Yeah.
I think she wouldn't have been a good witness for the prosecution, and kind of like you just said, kind of the state out of it because either she's getting paid or like she ain't got don't want to be involved, or did he treat her nice or whatever, but or doesn't want to seem like a snitch. I got people that I ain't snitching, and they just
Right.
stand strong like that.
I don't think Jane was a good witness. I think Jane, I mean, we know Jane is getting paid. Like, why would I bring up somebody who's on Diddy's payroll currently?
It's so silly. It's
Um,
so silly. And
I'm,
then like you calling her Jane Doe, but like she's allegedly a very public figure who's tied to another public figure who won't stop talking about the case. It's like you couldn't find nobody else. There
Right.
wasn't nobody else in this Rolodex of sex trafficking that y'all said was going on
Right.
that y'all could have presented. It came off as a weak case.
I mean,
I knew what I was going to ask y'all. So there have been multiple celebrities over the last maybe month or so who then opened up their mouth from the back of the classroom when nobody was talking about them to tell us that they're not going to Diddy parties. Oprah, TD Jakes, Meek Mill won't stop talking about it. So which celebrity cozies back up to Diddy first, when and if he does get out? What
Meek Mill.
who comes back to man? I swear to God, he won't stop talking about it. I have never been to no Diddy party. We not even affiliated like that. Yo, who asked you, bro?
Right.
Who
I
asked you?
well, we know
I think
Kanye's
maybe.
coming back.
Yeah, Kanye. Yeah.
We know Kanye
Yeah.
coming back. I just think that and then of course you caught old girl in a lie, because as soon as she said that along sitting up there with TD Jakes, somebody pulled up a picture. I don't know why these people tell these talk this stuff like the internet doesn't exist, because as
Yeah.
Right.
soon as she said, there was a picture that popped up with her and Diddy and what's his name, Pharrell, and somebody else. There's this big picture that popped up that you were partying with Diddy. Now, whose party it was, I don't know, but it was, you were partying. You were partying with Diddy, and you can't make me believe
Mm.
that you weren't at
They
the Diddy
think we
party.
got
You were
different
partying.
internets, fam.
It's like the president. He like, no, I didn't know him that well. Jeffrey was just an acquaintance. Man, we got all these pictures, arm around him, you and Melania. Like, we got it.
Different
We
dates.
seen it. There's no reason for you to go that far.
Puma says, hey,
Ray
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 J.
J.
J. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I
I can
think
see
you know
that.
what though.
Ray J.
It's crazy,
Hello,
Marcus.
hello.
I think, or Pam, I think they were telling the truth. I think they were not privy to these parties. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think a
Like they
lot of those
wasn't.
celebrities were not privy to those parties,
Yeah,
but
this that's
and
not what they were.
but
Yeah.
the implication of it, why even say it? We know you were at a party, but there's no need to there was no
Hmm.
need to say it, because again, after that first day of testimony, that first week of testimony, when we figured out that the freak offs where everybody was thinking of
They thought he was going
lace
down,
baby
Pam.
oil, huh?
They thought he was going down. They thought
Yeah,
that
they
like
thought,
everybody
but we
keeps saying,
realized that the freak offs wasn't what
98%
we thought
conviction rate. They got him.
So,
they.
so I don't want to limit what may or may not be going on in these Hollywood circles to what the prosecution brought their case about too, though. See, like, just like y'all was telling me here, I'm getting an education as much as I'm talking. Stuff goes on behind the scenes that we're not
Mhm.
privy to. So
Right.
just because we didn't hear about a celebrity sex party, like, we know celebrity sex parties happen. Like, they do this stuff as a group too. Now, whether or
Right.
not Diddy was the ringleader of it, or he's a purveyor of the group stuff, that wasn't proven in the case. It wasn't even brought up in that way. But I
Especially
don't
those
want to
yacht
completely
parties.
close the door on the freaky stuff that goes on it, because all of these people have these cases going on. Jared Leto right now has 9 accusers, and he got a film getting ready to
Drop.
premiere with Disney in December.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
so
Jared Leto is white, number one. Okay, and then the other thing is, when you say, and this is a great point that you just made, the other things that other people are doing,
mhm,
one of the byproducts of the Me Too movement is confusion about the question of consent. And I don't
Consent.
mean
Yep.
R. Kelly. I mean adults. I mean consenting adults making a decision to go to a certain place, to a certain time, to do a certain thing that is nobody's damn business. Now, all of a sudden, in these liberaler jurisdictions, okay, California and New York, we're starting to see cases brought where, oh, you may feel now 20 years later that maybe I wasn't consenting, or I
Yeah.
felt uncomfortable, or I don't
That's the
know
most
if I felt the way I
disgusting thing
felt.
in the world.
Now, 2 decades later, now some of that stuff is taken care of by the SOL, by the statute of limitations. Then New York opened up the statute of limitations, which, don't ask me how that didn't hit the Supreme Court yet on that, because Jamie Foxx and a bunch of other people got hit on that open SOL.
Right.
So the question becomes, particularly in this case where you have, I think it's easy to argue a bad actor. He's not a great guy. Sean Combs is not a guy I want to hang out with. I never was a big Sean Combs fan anyway. It's like, Mary J. Blige is talented. We didn't need you to tell us. We know she can sing. So I don't care that you discovered whoever,
Mm.
because to me, he's not all that. But you don't want to get into a position of defending a bad actor. At the same time, it gets to the question of, if somebody asks you to do something, you consent to do it, no matter how stupid it is or ridiculous it is or anything else. You, an adult, have consented to do that. Is that criminal? And these prosecutors decided, hey, maybe we can they're lowering the bar on how we define consent. And they're
Yeah.
lowering the bar on what you find in court. Anytime I see a case where, oh, now suddenly we're using the RICO for sex where we've never used the RICO for sex before. I know a black person is probably involved as the defendant. And sure enough, here we
Yep.
are with a case that to me is not dissimilar from the things that we've heard about rock and roll and the music industry in general for decades. And now suddenly, oh my God, let's do this
Hmm.
exploration legally into whether or not these things were consensual and whether or not these people felt comfortable at the time or didn't feel comfortable. And to have those types of text messages come out, I know this is the third time I've said it, but to me was amazing. It was a deal breaker. The minute we saw the very people who are defining themselves as victims saying that they are engaging consensually in the very things that the prosecution is defining as criminal, that was a huge problem. That was a deal breaker.
Yep.
So there we are.
I'll be
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
And they never really defined it.
Of course, they didn't
Yeah,
define it. They
yeah,
wanted to
like
be criminal so that they can. These people, these prosecutors, right, particularly on the left. I know I keep saying on the left, but I grew up in New York. I spent a fair amount of time in Brooklyn. I know what these people, how they think. They're thinking that I get to decide for everybody because I'm uncomfortable with this behavior. I'm going to now decide what is criminal under the law.
All right.
And what
Let
they're
me
really actually doing is they're weakening the position of real victims. I don't care what they say. They're weakening the
That's
position
true.
of people who are victims of sexual violence by bringing these types of cases.
All right.
I,
Let me get to this. Mark Nicholson is getting ready to leave us.
Yeah.
He's given us a good tight hour. I really do appreciate that. Do you have some closing thoughts before you go?
No, just that can't even speak. I hope everyone had a happy, celebration weekend and safe. Keep up the good work, the conversation, and I want to thank you for inviting me back with your guests that are so knowledgeable, and I always enjoy the time here. So once again, I appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
All right.
all right. Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Now, Dr. Hines, you were saying
Hey,
something.
Hines, they saying turn up your mic, bro.
Oh, it's my mic. Oh gosh, is it better now? Can you hear me? It's probably because I wasn't close to it. But no, I was only gonna say that all through this trial I was actually coping because when I first when I saw sex trafficking and I saw how the prosecution were trying to introduce it as how Cassie was being used in regards to getting a record deal, I thought they were going to methodically show how how she was being used and not paid royalties, for example, in exchange. So she had to do the free calves, and if she didn't do it, she wouldn't get royalties, for example. I thought that was was going on. I thought she would even be having sex in exchange for more contracts and things like that. So that was what I was expecting. Same with Jane. I like when I heard the testimony when I heard that they entered a love contract and he was paying the apartment. I thought, okay, if she didn't do something right in his eyes, he would stop paying the rent and then put it on her to pay, and yet she would still have to go do these free coughs and maybe go and do some labor work for him, other work for him in exchange for all this. I thought they had all of that laid out so that it shows, so that it at least meets the commerce threshold, because that's what sex trafficking is. I was so surprised that you can call something sex trafficking and there is no exchange, no nothing, no exchange for labor, no exchange for money to a, not necessarily to a pimp, just to another entity for this person. And I, it just fell apart. I couldn't believe that they put on a case like this. I really could not believe it, and how people out here thinking that sex trafficking is the same as rape. It's really not. It's actually much worse. But that's not what they actually presented. And yeah, I was done. I was done with it.
I thought about that too. And
They
now
was
that I
yeah, the
now that I
prosec
remember that love contract, so Jane's rent gonna be paid until that contract expires. So never mind. But I think, but you were on the right. That's what I was
right.
thinking behind when we started, because I was like, first of all, a lot of things can be true at the same time. To me, it's still unheard of to get a 10 album deal when you are a new artist and you bombed
19.
on and you bombed on your first live performance on the what was that, BTS or TR, what was it, one of them shows. But that was
TRL.
unheard of. I thought that they were going to show that she was made to do these things because she had this album deal, and if she wanted to get more stuff. But the way that they talked about it, was like she was still working. She said it was busy work, but you have a 10 album deal. You got to be busy to do this work, and you were doing all of these little different things. So I had a higher expectation to see what it was, but I'm like, Lauren,
That's what I
you
thought
read,
they were going to show too, which
yeah,
they showed in the Weinstein case, that Weinstein was leveraging women to have sex and messing up their careers if they didn't do what he wanted.
Mhm.
That's another story in terms of you're leveraging people, you're destroying their career if they don't sleep with you. I thought that was definitely going to be there. You know what I mean? And that was not there at all. So that, I mean, it wasn't, you can imagine, certainly given the power dynamics in the music industry and in this specific situation. Obviously, Sean Combs has more power than a 19-year-old Cassie Ventura. But under the law, it didn't happen there for them. So, sure, he had more power than she did. Sure, he had more influence than she did. But it wasn't as explicit, nowhere close than I thought it was going to be.
Mm.
yeah. It just, I like I said, and I
I don't
wanted
even.
to show.
I
Go
don't
ahead,
like.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I was that her being 19 coming into the industry, and yes, Sean is an older man, more powerful. I get all that, but to me, she had a plan. She was with a producer already who was older, right? She saw another guy who could take her to a different level. Even she said, if I leave him, who am I going to go get? Jay-Z, he's already taken. Like, I think once the jury started hearing stuff
Such
like
a
this, it's like,
terrible
no, this girl
approach.
was out to get. Yeah, I know, right? But
That's
it
an
seemed like this
awful
No,
girl was
approach.
out to catch a lick. She caught her lick. She caught her come up, and that's it.
Well, one of the things that I think is a uncomfortable conversation that the Me Too movement never liked to have, which is that women do use the power dynamics of sexuality to their advantage. And that is something that people do
Thank
not
you.
want to talk about. They try to put women in this sort of box of we're babies and we're not really interested in sex. And we just happen to find ourselves in the hotel room. We don't know how we got here. Now, you got to be kidding me. There's been nobody in any hotel room that I've ever been in, no guy that was in that room that wasn't in that room because I wanted him to be in that room, whether he was a boyfriend or somebody I was interested in or whatever he was. He didn't just get there by accident. Okay, and vice versa. So I mean, we need to be honest and we need to be candid about the fact that women are usually just as interested in sex as guys are, and in some cases, in a business relationship. What I've seen in a lot of the jobs I've been in, I worked at USA Today, ABC News in particular when I was there. We saw people who had an affair with somebody. A woman has an affair with a guy, they get divorced and got married, or she got a huge advantage in the workplace because of that sexual relationship. And
You
now
think this
now
would have
that's
been a
being
stronger
tried.
quid pro quo case?
Say that again.
You think this would have been a stronger case, as it would have been like a quid pro quo case with Cassie?
I'm saying that it's hard for me to believe in the music business that she entered, even at 19 years old, that she's just a babe in the woods and doesn't understand exactly what the power dynamics are, even
Right.
given some of the age difference. However, I did think before the evidence was presented that we were going to see some sort of quid pro quo type of thing, as we did in the Weinstein case, where literally Weinstein was like, sign
Just
this
how you get your job.
right. This is
Right.
how you go
And
get
his
this
wasn't
role.
Rico. And his
Casting
wasn't
couch,
Rico.
straight up casting couch. Okay, um,
Yeah.
but it's that's not quite what happened here.
No,
I don't
and
even think they tried.
speaking to the like you said, the using your feminine wiles. We heard that with Joy Taylor when Joy, with the whole instance with the Fox Sports, Joy Taylor saying, "Hey, I'm gonna do this until they come back at me. I already got them. If they come back at me and say the way I'm going to the top, if somebody don't like it, I say, oh, he sexually
He took
assaulted
it.
me. You know what I'm saying? Right.
He
So
took
it's
it.
like
Allegedly.
allegedly.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
some of this is born of the dynamics of women, some women feeling like this is what I have to do to get from point A to point B. So that's sort of built into the bigger picture
and I'm not
of,
I'm
of
not
where
mad
we're
at that.
going.
I'm
Say
not
again?
mad at a woman using her sexual wiles to get to
Well,
no meaning because men having it. If a man can use his money to get to the top of his influence, why can't the woman use her? You know what I'm saying? It's just
No,
having the
Oh, what about
accountability of it.
meritocracy and the
hold
best
on.
person
No,
rising to
hold
the
You
on.
are
top and
Now,
all
supposed
if
to
you
that?
use your
hold on,
money and
wait, you
influence.
still hold on, wait. You still at the end of the day, I would because we live in the real world. Yes, I would like for those individuals to be good at the job, right? But if I go out on a golfing, how many people got jobs from just going to golf with the boss, right? How many people got uh um you know got to the next level just by just being friends with the boss, just laughing at jokes, having a
Is
you know what I'm saying?
networking giving up the cheeks? Is that the same thing?
If you like giving up the cheeks, if you don't mind
Man,
giving up the cheeks, come on. I mean, come on, because I don't have to go kiki with
They
the
can do
boss.
that if they don't cry victim afterwards. They
Right,
can
that's
do
what I'm
that
saying. Like, if you do that, just don't cry victim after.
now,
because
Blue.
that's illegal.
Now I hear where you going with that, but
Is it illegal?
imagine
Hold on, wait.
It is
That,
actually illegal to do that. It is.
is that
It's
illegal to
it's sex trafficking. It's sex trafficking.
to give the
you are
cheeks up?
giving a
Yeah,
position in exchange for
yeah,
sex.
yeah.
That's that
It's
quid pro
yeah.
quo.
So
That
wouldn't
that's
that be the
the.
same thing as me just going golfing with the boss and now I
No,
get the position?
okay, Blue.
It's not illegal
Listen.
to golf with somebody.
Yeah, hold on,
It's
listen.
not illegal to have sex with anybody neither.
You and this old girl are going out for the same job. You take the boss out to go golfing.
Okay.
Whole nine. Y'all do all 18 holes. You done
Yeah.
bought him his favorite beer.
Pause.
You picked him up in your car, dropped him
Yeah.
off back home. Now, when he get back home, Susie, who going for the same job, is waiting
Okay.
for him butt naked in his bed. Who do you think
Right.
get the job, Blue?
What did he like more? Did he
Who
like the
getting
cheeks
the
more? Did he
job?
Are
like
you
the
Who
kidding
getting
golfing?
the
me?
job,
You
Blue?
know,
Come on now.
He doesn't. He does not like
Wait,
to
hold on, hold on,
stroking
hold on.
that
Well,
much.
put
He
it
does
like
not
this,
like to
Blue.
hold on,
stroke.
Put it like
I
this,
gotta,
Blue. Put it like this. You and
I gotta
Susie
real.
going up to the same job. You
Okay.
give up the cheeks, and Susie give up the cheeks. Who getting the job?
Who getting the job?
Whose cheeks did he like more? That's what I'm asking.
Man.
well, nine times out of 10, the person making the decision is male. The person in the position of power is a
Right.
straight
Now
male.
that right.
So
So
you're
the
not even gonna have
person-
a chance.
right. So the person, typically the person in position of power making the decision is a straight male. So right there, the power dynamic is typically
No, I
that.
get all that. I'm just talking about the legality. Like we talking if like y'all just said, if I go in and I started bringing him his favorite sandwich every day, but like you said, Susie is giving him the cheeks every day. Yeah, I'll be mad that Susie got the job. Like, damn, Susie got the job. I would be mad, but shit, she got she got something I don't have. You know what I'm saying? Like,
He like
But the law
survival of the
says you
fittest.
can't
I
do
ain't
that.
got it.
now, is it illegal for you're saying that it's illegal for her to give the cheeks up
It's illegal for him to take the cheeks and then give her the job because
due
she
to the
gave
power
the cheeks.
dynamics? You're saying,
Yeah.
so he shouldn't take my sandwich neither.
Well, those are two
I'll-
different things.
I'm just wondering.
Unless your sandwich is part of your body, it's not.
Okay, because it's okay. All right,
No,
cool.
you
You know,
make
the movie,
sandwiches.
the movie Boomerang with Eddie Murphy actually
Yeah.
dealt with this issue, and it was
Yeah.
way before its time, because it was a movie about some executives, and then the woman
Mhm.
was actually in the power position over him. It
Eartha
was
Kitt?
Robin Givens.
No,
Robin
Eartha Kitt.
Givens,
Oh,
right.
I thought you were talking about Eartha Kitt because she took
There was that too.
she
but
took
I'm
his
saying-
cheeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I'm just throwing. I was just throwing that. I understand. Don't act like I don't understand where y'all come from. I
This is a
totally
new-
understand. I'm just trying to get to women and men having different ways to make it up to the top, right? If a woman is comfortable sleeping her way to the top in a legal manner, you know what I'm saying? Because if she don't necessarily have to do an exchange for, because I think that's what y'all saying. Hey, let me go give him the cheeks, and then hey, I better get the promotion tomorrow, right?
Yeah, but see, this is not a minor question to wave away the issue of usually who is in control
Right.
of the power dynamic.
No, I get that.
We do the same thing a little bit with race. Like, who
Mhm.
is making the decision for the promotion?
For the promotion.
And
Right.
so the person in the subservient position sometimes feels Like now I have to engage in an activity that has nothing to do with my ability to
do
perform
the
a
job.
job function.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not saying that, I made the point. I think women do use their sexuality to bounce up to the top, particularly in the entertainment industry,
Mm.
where so much of this is about subjective, looks and everything else. But it shouldn't be that way. We should not have a
Oh, I
situation
agree.
where people are feeling like I got to sleep with Sean Combs to get the
Mm.
To get a job.
non-contract
Right.
deal. I mean, but then again, so many things could be true at the same time. I don't think somebody should be prosecuted for it and be looking at life in prison because, in fact, she may have made a deal with the devil, as it were. I don't know if she did or not. I can't know what's in her mind. But when you stay with somebody for 11 years and you're coming back and forth year after year and you're setting the thing up, I'm judging this on your behavior and your decision making over a large span of time.
And thank you, because that is the key thing that I want to get out here to a lot of young ladies, because the prosecution wants to make it up like you all are the helpless victim. There is some level of responsibility on your behavior because of the fact that with Cassie, now don't mishear me, he was putting her head through the washer and between the washers and dryers. He's wrong for that.
Mhm.
But I also look at the fact that you were calling your favorite escort. You were calling your favorite people. You were setting it up. You sent text message to him. Hey, baby, do you want to do this? Can we go ahead and do this? So it's hard to believe if you're setting up all of this stuff. It's hard for a reasonable jury of his peers to look at that and say, oh, you're trafficked. Because again, we're thinking about what commercially traffic meaning,
Hmm.
that you've come from in a whole nother country, or
Yeah,
you've paid
girls in
money.
shipping
Yeah,
containers.
Mhm.
you've been shipped over and you've paid money to come over, and then you've been bamboozled to believe you're going to get this job, this nice American job. And the American job is the oldest profession in the book, and you've got to pay off your debt because you've come over here. And it was difficult to see the coercion or any of those other things. We know he put your head through the washer and dryers. We know that. We see that. We understood that. But it's that thing where you're setting it up, and reasonable jurors weren't going to. They weren't just kind of going for that.
Right.
And I know people are upset about that, but that's just basically how it was. They're just not. They weren't going for that. And also, too, I want to put up here real quickly. This is what I was talking about. I think the reason why they didn't get the RICO charge was the fact that they did not believe Jane. It says here, count one has a 5-year limitation of statute of limitations. Therefore, you must determine whether the RICO conspiracy charge in count one continued beyond September 12th, 2019.
Yeah, that hurt.
No,
That's a
that's
yeah,
what
that
hurt them,
line. Yeah.
because
And
when you started talking with Jane and she was up there, and again, bless her heart, because she's in love with Diddy. Now, I don't care what y'all say to me. She's in love with Diddy. If Diddy tells her, baby, you just did what you had to do, come on home, she gonna go home. And I'm being real. I'm being very real. But this is
Yeah.
what stopped them, because this was supposed to be the last time. This was 5 years from when, I guess it's supposed to have been 5 years of discovery or whatever. And so I guess this was supposed that if they found it go beyond here, they could have convicted on all of those RICO charges. Now, hear me when I say this. I think that they had the bribery, and I think that they had let me look those charges up real quick again. I think that they had the bribery. I don't know about the drug. I think they had the drugs, because he was having people to go buy
Transporting.
the drugs and transport the drugs, because they had to have given Jane immunity, because Jane testified that she was out here drug muling.
Now let's pause right there, Pam. What if I hit him with, like you say, drugs, right? Um, the bribery charge, and didn't they say something about some serial numbers being filed off some guns or something like that? Which I
Correct.
don't think they might have would have lost on that one, because I think that was securities guns. But either way, those are charges that probably would have got him thrown in prison for the most part. The
But they didn't
bribery,
focus on that stuff.
right? Why you focused on the And that's what I mean. They were so trying to make this man look bad
Sex
with the
stuff. Yeah.
DV and the sex deviant
Mhm.
stuff. Like, and I think America, or yeah, I would just say America. I think Americans is out here on some freaky stuff in their bedroom, and they like, that's me. I do that. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I get down like that. And they was not ready to convict him over the stuff that they might get down with. You see what I'm saying? The
Right.
swinging, the cuckold stuff, all of that stuff is fair play, especially in 2025. All that stuff is fair play.
Well,
Get
whether
him for the drugs, get him for
I
the
just, I just
bribery,
want
get
the
him for the
audience
gun.
to know I don't be rubbing baby batter on myself.
Me neither.
I,
Me neither.
I
I'm just
left
saying. I
myself
think
out
a
of that.
lot. I just
Listen.
think a lot. It's a lot of sexuality. A lot of sexual
Sure.
things is open now with in regards to what it was 10, 20 years ago. You see what I'm saying?
Well, whether it's open or not, it's a strange thing to bring. And if you're bringing it and then you're not bringing it with a bunch of other people in the entertainment field, that's unusual for me.
Mhm.
Warren Beatty has spent his entire career bragging about how many women he screwed. All right. And I don't see
Right.
anybody saying anything about Warren Beatty.
Right.
I don't see Roman Polanski getting cuffs on or any of that. So I have
Yeah.
a problem
He
with
ran.
he did run
Yeah, he did.
as he should have.
Mhm.
And so I think that the lack of consistency with these types of adjudications is problematic on its face.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I was gonna say too that because I put the racketeering charges up, but it's me. I believe Capricorn when they came up there to get her to go find out where Kid Cudi was at. I believe that. And here's where I'm sad about that. Because you couldn't prove that this thing happened beyond this September 12th, 2019, it kind of negated all of those charges.
All the charges. Yeah.
All those things that happened before. I believed Capricorn. I believed her. She didn't come off, and especially when because I thought that this was the biggest defense blunder that I saw is when she had to correct him and say no, he and as far as that with the forced labor, because they said that the forced labor was like, even if he was blackballing. Now I believe he blackballed Capricorn Clark. I believe it all with
But
all
she
my.
kept coming back too. She kept
Yeah,
coming back.
well, yeah, because that was the only place that she was going to ever get a job. Because he
Good
was
job.
even when he said that he was supposed to have signed this, because the defense was like, "Well, he signed this letter for you to get a job." She was like, "No, that was under the lawsuit that he
Mhm.
only agreed to that because I had sued them." Boom, boom, boom. They brought up that, so I can believe that what happened to Capricorn Clark in regards to her being kidnapped, that kid to go into to take her to Kid Cudi. I can believe that. But I hate it for her because again, the prosecution was so busy trying to get us emotionally riled up
Mhm.
because he was a freaky ass ninja that they didn't want to pursue, try to put the right charges. They needed more people than Cassie and Mia and Jane. They needed at least two or three more people in that whole section to kind of make it come around. But I just don't. I hate that for her, but that's just the way it is, and that's how they have it in their on their sentencing charge. You have to
Did
believe.
trafficking need to be part of this for them to prove a RICO? Like, did they have to have sex trafficking in here at
They
all?
had to have had it
Yeah.
for they had to have had it for Jane. In order for them to prove the RICO, they had to find him guilty of
Right.
trafficking Jane and transporting Jane.
Okay.
And so
Yeah,
if they
because I don't think they could get it on Cassie because of the statute of
statute of
limitations.
limitations. It all, that's why I said it, for them, for all of this to have hinged on the testimony of Jane, they could not have believed that they were going to get it. They must have thought that, oh, it we could believe it. We could believe the beatings and all those different things with Cassie, but it was different with Jane. They couldn't make the jury believe it with Jane, and Jane was the crux of this whole case. She was the crux of this whole case.
I
Because
was
because it says here, and again, we'll go back, I'll put it back up, but it says count one has a 5-year statute of limitations. Therefore, you must determine whether the RICO conspiracy charged in count one continued beyond September 12th, 2019. And
It,
they didn't believe it was continuous because they didn't have Gina.
is that something that you can predict going into a trial? Like, can you kind of map out a trial and be like, all right, this person is going to be the linchpin of our trial? Is that something that kind of
They're
comes to
supposed
light
to.
as you go
Yeah,
through it?
as a
I,
as
I I think that they were counting. This is what I think. I think that they were counting on Cassie, Gina, and Jane. I think Gina was supposed to bridge the gap as far as the conspiracy, uh, continuance of the conspiracy, because it was going to because she overlapped Cassie and Jane.
Jane.
She was in between because she was there with Cassie and she was also there when Jane was there. So when she left, that only left uh Jane. And Jane didn't come into the picture to 2021.
Gotcha.
No, I mean,
It just seems like to have that, to know that they have her texts and her communications back to Diddy. They know that she's did. Did she surprise them when she got up there and was like, "Yeah, I had this other freak off
no,
with
no.
homeboy and his wife." Like, so y'all knew
There,
she was gonna get up there and say that and didn't have
no, no. There
nothing.
are. There is a quote that I heard from a lawyer called Adam Warman, and he said, "A trial, there are no surprises in trial. It's just you just gotta present your case to the jury. Everything has been done, pre-decided before the trial even began. So you gotta think. The defense asks the questions of the witnesses. How many times have you been to the prosecutor's office? That's not to throw shade at them. That's to tell the jury these guys have had preparation and they have heard what these guys have to say.
Yeah.
and
So
it
if
still
they're
sounds
bringing them
janky.
up here, we're not trying to hide anything. They just don't have anything. Like these guys, they have had years. I mean, well, I don't know how long they've been planning this case, but they've had time. They've had time to do the interviews, get the relevant witnesses to prove their case. They knew her testimony. They knew of the relationship. I don't think, and if Jane went up there and told a lie, they could have just treated her as an hostile witness.
Right.
They could have.
Right.
And just say, you told us this. Why are you saying this now? You told us this. And that would have
Right.
made Diddy look 10 times worse. That didn't happen. So,
Behind-
so they.
I'm gonna push back. I don't think that they had I think this case was brand new. I don't think they had enough time to go and do the things that they want. I think they thought that
That's
they were
on
going to
them.
get the time.
That's
I mean, they raided his house last. What was that last
They
spring?
Yeah.
They raided his property. So
Yeah, they
had
rated it right,
a lot
but
of
that
time.
was fast.
Yeah, but
Think about
this
it.
is- this is
with
why-
the evidence that they presented, was that a lot of evidence that they really presented? All it was
This
was
is why-
testimony from five or six people.
again.
About some freak. That's not a lot
We
of
don't.
evidence.
I think Gina's, because remember they said that the number of people that they had testifying, had they had Gina, they would have. We still would be in prosecution putting their case out.
She
Possibly.
opens up the door to be able to talk about more stuff in between Jane and Cassie.
And so
True,
we didn't
but
get those people because I'm quite sure
Prosecution also
there were
holds the
people.
right to add more charges. Also,
Right.
I mean,
they never did nothing like that. They never changed. Hey, we're gonna drop this, but we're gonna try this now. They could have did that mid trial.
I think what Pam
just like
is
they
saying
did with
though, is
go
that
ahead.
if they don't have that chunk for her to testify to directly, then they kind of have to ignore that section of it because they don't have anybody who can speak to those actions. If I'm understanding you correctly, they don't have anybody
Right,
else who
because
can
the
have
only
firsthand
person
account of it.
that they only had one personal assistant that talked about Gina. Remember they said that Diddy was chunking apples at her. He was
Mm-hmm.
and he left the employment because of the fact he saw him and Cassie Diddy fighting Cassie on the plane, and that he saw him chunk apples at Gina. That was the only introduction. It was a grand opening, grand closing on Gina because Gina was not there. There was nobody there to corroborate any of that stuff, and he put it in there. I think that there was a big chunk of folk that probably could testify. And again, had that person been there, if Gina had been there, it they would have probably convicted him on the RICO. I'm just saying because the continuity would have remained the same.
Right, but this is where I go back to attacking the prosecution. You knew that you didn't have enough and you still proceeded. That's the issue. Maybe at first they thought they had a case. Once your case falls apart, it's time to come to the table. Hey, can we get a deal? Hey, yada yada. They didn't do none of that.
Yeah, you're not
They
going to expect the United States government to show their belly like that, though.
well,
They
look,
ain't gonna do that.
sometimes you got to run and hide, man. Sometimes you got to tuck your tail. This was one of those times because,
It's
especially
gonna
they could have easily said, "All right, we're dropping the RICO, but we're going to bring drug charges and we're going to bring bribery charges." They could have easily did that.
You
To
know
save
why they
face.
not going to do that, though, Blue? Because this, again, check me if I'm incorrect. Is this not the same district that tried Jonathan Majors?
It is.
Okay.
But
No.
even
No.
they but I mean it wasn't.
The
It
district
was
that
state.
charged Jonathan Majors was state.
It was
This
It
is
was
state.
state
federal.
level.
Yeah, it
But
was
this,
state level.
okay, got you.
It's the
But
same
it's
culture
same.
of attorneys and
Right.
prosecutors.
Mm.
The reason why I brought that up is because similar, is in a very similar case, right? We were talking about assault and harassment, right? In that case. And the things that came out in that trial were very damaging to the supposed victim, right? Text messages about her saying that she did violence to Jonathan Majors.
Right.
Jonathan Majors having physical evidence of the the assault that he ensued from that woman. The video of her pursuing him for several city blocks, right? There was no concession on charge until the very, very, very end. Right.
Yeah,
And
well, at least they did try to pivot, though. They at least tried to pivot.
But this
a
process
little
they
bit.
did the same thing. They at the very, very end, before they went in and started deliberating, they said, okay, well, we going the attempted what was it?
No, they just simplified. They just took to make it so the jury could understand, which to me made it even worse. So the jury could understand the RICO a little bit better. That's what they did. They didn't drop nothing. Everybody gets confused like they dropped charges. They didn't drop no charges.
Yeah, I think that this comes under the heading of, once again, okay, they know damn well if we bring a black male defendant up there, throw
It
some
just
sex
looks
stuff
bad.
out there,
Mm.
that's half you've almost got
Half
half
the
the
battle.
victory just doing that.
Yeah.
If we just, again, look at the criminal justice statistics on adjudications against black people versus white. Black people go down quicker, harder for the things, and longer sentences for the same crime. So,
Right.
there's a feedback. What is that? Is that me?
There's an echo. Somebody
It is.
Is there
I
echo?
don't know
Hold
who it is.
on, because I just noticed that there's a new feature in How
Yeah,
is it?
it's gone now? So I think maybe it was me because I'm like, okay. So the point though is that with John Majors, it was the same run of show, right? We got this big muscular black guy that's 6'1", and we got this waif-like lady with the English accent, in here playing the victim, and then whoops, the evidence comes out, and then we find out she was actually arrested for assault on him, which of course they work like hell to make that disappear with their partners at the New York Times, right? So basically, I thought it was the same. This is why I say it's the same culture of prosecution, even though one was state and one was federal. These people are all going to the same gender studies class. There is no doubt in my mind. This is women are victims. Y'all need to say stuff even when you're mad and you're confused, and we'll throw it out there and make it criminal now. Now this is becoming criminal prosecution. The things that go on in relationships that are not working, in which both parties do dumb stuff. I'll be the first to say Jonathan Majors did dumb stuff too, as did Grace Jabari. I mean, it wasn't like, it's very rarely the case that one party is just so completely right and the other party is so completely wrong, right? So, but they presented it as he's the devil, she's an angel, and this is how this is going to go down. And for that, it worked for some very minor charges. They spent, once again, hundreds of thousands of dollars so that they could showcase certain groups that work in that field, who I think are probably honest actors in the sense they're trying to do good for society. But you don't bring that case in the city of New York when you have 8 million people sitting around. You're telling me that case was the one that you brought? And with the music industry and the entertainment industry, it is hard for me to believe that this is the only case where there are sex parties, there may be some orgies, there's some planning around the sex, there's some prostitution. Are you kidding me? All right, this is the only case that, so I feel like I have a problem with, even in cases like this where you see that this is a bad actor. This guy beat up his girlfriend, it was on video. yeah, I might sit here and say I don't think it was right that I think it's fairly clear that the prosecution leaked that to CNN, but I can't prove that, but come on. And then it leaks out, it obviously is going to influence the jurors. Well, did they not see the video? Then you're not charging him with that. Well, that made no sense to me. If you're not opening up the SOL, you're not charging him with assault and domestic violence, then why are we here? But they figured, oh, everybody's seen that video on CNN. Now we're gonna throw this other stuff out. Somebody already said it when we were talking. So I mean, that's what I think was really going on here.
I put you all on mute to cut down on the echo, so you all have to get yourself off mute.
Oh, good.
I'm just talking away. Isn't felonious assault a thing? Like, that's a charge, right? They could have charged him, put that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had an SOL problem. He certainly should have been
On
charged
that
with
one.
something. That was an aggravated assault. He's kicking her on the ground and
Throwing stuff at her.
and he gets away with that because you want to do salacious sex stuff, and we want to raid all his homes, and we're raiding his homes, and oh my God, there's tapes, and who's going to be on the tape? That all turned out to be a big fat nothing burger, as far as I can tell.
Did they show any tapes in court that we just didn't get?
No, they did.
They did
because the alternate juror spoke out, and he said that those tapes were real tame. There was no kind of crazy. Said it was more like petting and rubbing and petting. It was nothing like crazy on the tapes that he saw. I want to answer. Dre said, could the state come back for him? And I want to tell Dre, no, the state cannot come back because he was found not guilty, and or verdicts were dispersed. He was found not guilty on those charges, guilty on the other charges. And if the feds couldn't get him, the state damn sure ain't gonna be able to get him. That's one thing
on this 5-year window, though, right? Like, so if they come back and they got another 5-year window, they want to
for a different charge, because he's gone to court for these charges. That's double jeopardy. You can't take me to court again.
Well, no. Again, for those individuals, I'm saying if they got a whole new set of people.
Oh, now, right. Yeah, if it's a whole new set of people,
yes.
Gotcha. No, RICO. Well, I don't know about the RICO thing because.
So you saying he could never be charged for sex trafficking ever again under any circumstances?
I don't know. That's a tricky thing because that window.
You got to
mute yourself, fam.
Under these circumstances with these particular people, now if they find out that he is so let's say they find out that he goes Gina. Over, he does. I don't know if they could do Gina or not. I'm not really sure.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know
I don't know about that because hazy. But if they find out later that he does it with somebody else and there's a whole nother set of charges, something like that, they could possibly bring
it. Different,
but
right? That's different.
No, they can't bring this back up.
This set of circumstances is done with.
Can't even mention it if they have another case. They can't bring up all of this stuff.
The only thing I think that they could probably do, because again, they didn't they mentioned it, but they didn't put the charges out for it because I didn't see it, was I don't know if they could do that because she started it. I was going to say the domestic violence on Jane, but
yeah, she started it.
She started that. So I don't. That's the only thing that I could think that they could do. I don't know, because I think the statute of limitations is over for the arson. But they brought those people from the state to testify with that. I don't know about the witness tampering. I don't know about any. I don't know. I don't know if what I personally, we should have asked Mark before he skedaddled. What charges that they possibly could have brought if they want to, but I think that probably no one is going to touch it since they did not get the charges that they wanted to get. I don't think any state is going to do. I don't think any state is going to touch it because again, this is the Southern District of New York with a 98 point such and such percent conviction rate, and they didn't do it. I don't think anybody is going to touch it. I think, like I said, that's why I was asking about the sentencing, because they felt like, the judge is part of the system. Do they feel, do you think with all of this big bluster and this big show, if he's got on 2 charges and they can give him up to 10 years and then he could get up to 20 years. That's why I was asking about, do you think that he may just buck the system and give him 10 straight years. But I don't know. I don't know.
But they run the risk of making him into a folk hero if they overcharge,
Gotcha.
which I can absolutely see that happening because they just look stupid and ridiculous for the last. I mean, all this bluster, and then you totally swing and miss on the biggest charges.
Uh,
We'll see. you know.
Right, right.
He said they already outside putting baby oil in themselves.
I know. I know. They were doing all of that. So, any final thoughts? Because we've gone over everything that I wanted to be able to talk about. Is there any final thoughts or any more questions that we can go over? Heinz?
oh, I was only gonna say I always found it very, very interesting that California didn't try to pursue a rape case because Cassie did as alleged rape in the filing in a civil filing, and that was in 2018. California doesn't have any statute of limitations over there for those type of cases. So I'm very surprised that they didn't try to bring that over there and try to prosecute that there. But yeah, so that's just my thoughts. I I personally think I personally think that all of this that especially the um I just I just can't believe that this keeps happening. Personally, but yeah,
I can.
that's all I want to say. I couldn't believe it. I like it was so paper thin. Like I'm still lost for words because I really did go gun ho on the prosecution proving at least two predicates. At least I really did think that
Same.
there was something underneath, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So like yeah, like I was really surprised in the end. But maybe that video just made me think, okay, um, there was something more to this.
They
When
kept playing the video, huh? That's what hurt the jury. That's what hurt everything. They kept playing that video. They kept showing, oh, look at this, look at what he did to Cassie. And it's like, but that's not what we here for, dog.
And y'all ain't for that either. So
Yeah, like we not here for that. But they kept showing, and I think that's what made the jury. They say the jury was in a sleep majority of that trial. Sleep, getting Z's, dreaming about watching Superman or Jurassic Park or something like that. They was done. Like, because you got to think a lot of them raised their hand to be on the jury because of the salaciousness. Where is it? None of it was there.
you said they was looking for the teeth.
Man, what?
I
and
get.
oh no, I was only gonna say when Jane Doe actually it just came to me when Jane Doe actually said that she went to other parties. I was at that point. I wouldn't be surprised if the jury actually thought, okay, so why are those guys not in here as part of the co-conspirators? I wouldn't be surprised if they thought that because that is an organization that is like because the way that the judge explained Rico to them, like I wouldn't be surprised if they thought, yeah, those guys should be here too. If they're all having sex
But
parties, this
but
could
she was
be.
willing to do that though.
She was, but and I'm gonna cope again. When you when you have testimony that she was being blackmailed, that she was being threatened, that the videos would release if they didn't, when you have something like that, you can argue that you're doing more and more to stop that from happening. And the fact that he had tapes of the experiences, you can argue that he must have linked up with our people to ensure that they do all these things um, for their gratification, etc. That's what I personally thought.
Whatever,
Like,
dirty.
uh, um, especially in regards to the videos that he had. When I heard the testimony in regards to him blackmailing Cassie on that plane, saying that he was going to release the videos, I thought yeah, I thought that was enough.
And I would do that too. Let me just get this super chat from Bucks Thoughts. I want to apologize on behalf of my city. We are all not weirdos walking around with lube and baby oil. Again, Heinz, I would tell you just in my closing thoughts on that. Like I said, I believed Capricorn Clark, and I believe the assistants that talked about those violence, but this whole case hinged on Jane. The whole case hinged on Jane. So all of that couldn't come in if they did not find her trafficked and transported, guilty of those two things. All of that stuff that those people came in and testified on, which like I said, I believe Capricorn, and I believe what the assistant said because they didn't have too much reason to tell any tales. The prosecution relied on emotion and the tape, replaying the tape, emotion and replaying the tape over and over and over again and again. Because even I don't, they even relied on getting a juror dismissed, but he lied about where he was living, so nobody was trusting where he was going. But I just think that was the whole thing. The case seemed like it hinged on Jane, even though all that other stuff, like I said, I believe that what Capricorn happened to Capricorn. I believe him telling Cassie, hey, if you don't do this, I'm gonna show these tapes. I can believe all of that. It's just that if the prosecution knew that Gina was as important as she was, somebody should have somebody should have found Gina. But
I just never thought. Nah, I'm sorry. That whole Gina thing. I'm surprised that in a federal case that your subpoenas do not work. Like I'm sorry. Like they mean something. So why are they not bringing charges on her to bring her to court?
Because
like,
our institutions are crumbling. None of this stuff means anything.
That ain't why.
I was.
She wasn't going. She was not. She was not going to work for the prosecution.
She got a federal subpoena. Whether you gonna speak for them or not, you gotta come and answer.
You
that.
gotta go in.
No,
I'm sorry.
And
I'm
when
sorry.
I guarantee you, they talked to her and was
no. You charge and that like this is because you're not the only person.
So let's
that,
waste money and do
got on
what?
that
30 days
stand.
in jail.
She would have got on that stand and she would have been a hostile witness for the prosecution if they had charged her because they were trying to put her out as a victim. And can you imagine what the jury would have thought that the prosecution is charging a victim to come testify? What do you think?
Nah. Like first and foremost, especially with what the lawyer, I forgot his name. I'm sorry, but what he said in regards to the juries automatically defaulting to thinking that if you brought this defendant here, they must have done the crime. So why is this person that you have to drag into court? What has this guy done to her so badly that you can't that she is coming in here and doesn't want to say anything or you are charging her to bring her in here? What has this guy got on her? Like I don't think that will blow back.
I think that takes a pretty skilled orator though to get that point across, because again, you're expecting the prosecution that hasn't been that skillful giving the things that they want to present, and now a person who's being hostile to their direction, how you now represent that to the jurors. It takes a very skilled person. They weren't that skilled. They weren't dealing with that sharp knives. They were trying to say, hey, bad guy, look at all that sex stuff. Look at that. Look at that. Now convict. They weren't that skilled in their approach anyway. So now I'm on Blue and them side. If she wasn't gonna get up there and say what they wanted her to say, then maybe they would just let her stay out and not do
she was not. I don't think she was willing to take that immunity deal because I don't think she felt like she did anything, right? So now I can get up there and just plead the fifth the whole way through. See, when you have the immunity deal, you now have to testify for this to work, or we stripping the immunity away. I don't know if Cassie
taking the deal is an admission of guilt too,
right? You see what I'm saying? So now, if she gets up there and they want to treat her as a hostile witness, how does that look to the jury? This is your witness. Why are you treating your witness hostile? You see what I'm saying? She was not a good. I don't answer the subpoena for one thing. And not answering the subpoena, yeah, you can get contempt of court. What is that? 30 days in jail? Like you think that's where we want to do? Oh, we got her locked up for 30 days. We pull out it. That's another thing. So she don't answer. They lock her up and then they bring her out to testify. How does that look to the jury? You see what I'm saying? Like nothing about
they got
that
a
would
higher
have
threshold
worked.
to cover now.
And
Nothing
then
about that would have worked.
then all she has to do is then she starts testifying for the defense. No, Diddy didn't do this. He didn't do that. He was this. He was
Yeah,
that.
and the
He was
defense is
this.
gonna say, "Why are you testifying?" Oh, I'm only reason why I'm testifying because they locked me up.
It's a dagger.
Or their friends. Look, uh,
All
their
right,
friends
people.
lock me.
Is there any other closing thoughts?
Uh, personal responsibility, like some others on this panel has said. Fathers, hold your daughters close. Let them know that they're loved, so that they don't go out and try to seek it in other people. For sure.
Yeah,
All right.
I
So I'm
want to
getting
say,
like, go ahead.
to the victims out there, don't take this as an indictment to the victims because he got free. This was not to me, he was not charged with something against victims. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
think if you are a victim out there, you need to look at the prosecution and say, hey, bring a good case so we get justice, so we can actually get some things going. Because once you start crying wolf long enough, people's gonna start turning around. Like, ah, here we go again, and that's what's been going on. Like it's been a lot of wolf crying, and ain't no wolf showed up yet.
Yeah, and along those lines, yeah, I get it, prosecution team, that it may not be very exciting to prosecute cases that are not in the media, and you can't be in the New York Times every
You know what
single
the law is about?
day. Okay, I know it might not be exciting to prosecute cases that don't get you your big job at some big law firm 2 years from now, but there are victims out there who are not as famous as the people who are in that case
There you
that
go.
should have their cases looked at with six people, six prosecutors marching around, so laser focused on this. The reason they're laser focused on this is twofold. They're trying to move the bar on how we look at these types of interactions that are private between people typically. They're trying to move the bar, I think, in a way that does, in fact, impact real victims of sexual violence, which is who they should be focused on. I mean, come on. That should not be hard to figure out. But I get it. The donations come in and the attention and the PR when you have these bigger cases. Totally understand. I think it was Deshaun Watson. There was a bunch of donations that came into a domestic violence set of domestic violence groups in Cleveland when he was becoming the quarterback of the Cleveland
Yeah,
Browns. I get all that strategy, but come on, in a city that big, you bring this and then it blows up in your face, and then people start to think maybe this is maybe this is a racket,
A
and you
sham.
don't want
Yep.
people thinking that this type of subject matter that's so important is a racket.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be my closing thought. Thanks for having me.
Hines?
Yeah, I was going to say I'm glad that they put that the I'm gonna cope again, but I'm really glad that the prosecution has kept us safe from baby oil and astroglide. They took that off the streets. Um, but at the end of the day, I agree with everything Lauren Burke had said in regards to prosecuting these cases properly. I've seen I'm starting to notice that trend they that they don't even bring cases anymore to try and meet the threshold. It's happening. It happens here a lot, and over here the courts are way more secretive. At least over there you get people tweeting from the courtroom in federal court and doing all those things. Over here you can't do that. You can't do that. So, and I'm seeing cases that are brought that they're not even trying to meet that reasonable doubt threshold. They just want to bring it for the sake of bringing it, and hopefully, the jury would believe what they're saying. We are living what I believe in it's a very dangerous time, in which we are going back into mob rules. Like people don't. I don't think people trust the courts anymore. People really believe that if they see an instance of violence, that it doesn't matter what the prosecution bring in, even if it's murder and no one died, it doesn't matter. Like they gotta go down for that crime. And to me, that is a very slippery slope because everything has to match what you're trying to say. Like the charges have to match. The evidence that you're bringing has to be succinct. Otherwise, there is no point trying to, in my opinion, convict someone just for just to appease one person, another person, or as Lauren says, elevate your career. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be justice and the truth being on your side. That and that's my takeaway from all this.
I'm gonna piggyback on all of that because I am a proponent of, uh, again, and I know we're going back to that case, but I'm a proponent of not just throwing all these charges out here and figuring out which one is sick. You need to charge them for what you know that you can prove. Don't just throw out uh murder, second degree murder, uh manslaughter, and all these little different charges. You need to charge him for what you know that you can prove that this person has done, instead of trying to stick out all these charges and see whichever sticks. So, and also too, I am very a big proponent that the prosecution, when these cases come to you, like Lauren said, there are victims out here that you all won't touch, you won't do, because it's not sensationalized. I think that those types of, you thinking that this case is going to further your career, should not be in the window anymore. You should just make sure that you are focusing on those charges where you can prosecute these cases effectively. I don't know if morally is put in there or not, but this is such a terrible case for victims. I think this was a terrible case for victims. And also too, someone said, I was watching someone's stream, and they said if the prosecutors really cared about the victims, they would have had this case charged in state court.
Yep.
So,
You
and
lose the moral high ground when you argue from a moral place only and lose.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, people. We do this every week, so please like, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe to everyone's channel on the panel. Again, I want to thank Dr. Hines. I want to thank Lauren. I want to thank Blue. I want to thank Marcus. I want to thank Mr. Nicholson for coming up and kind of going over with this Diddy taste. I think I will. No, I don't think. I know that I'll be covering to see what they're going to sentence him with. The consensus on the panel is anywhere from 2 to 4 years. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a 6 or 7 years. I don't know. Either way, it's not life. And either way, he doesn't lose his assets, from what I understand. And also, he does not, because had they charged him with the sex trafficking, he would have had to register as an
As a
offender. He
mhm.
doesn't have to do that. I'm not pro Diddy. I'm not against Diddy. I just love to watch these legal cases and go through. So I let you all figure out what you do and what side of the aisle that you want to fall on. Again, I want to thank all my guests. I want to thank all the people that have watched this show. And I want to leave you with this. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you cannot stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye bye.